Well, it wouldn't be a PS5 announcement if it wasn't riddled with misrepresentation and falsehood from the side that really doesn't like Sony or PlayStation. The Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart PC port made the term PS5 SSD trend on Twitter, and for all the wrong reasons. Everyone claiming that Sony lied and that, oh, the game's going to be able to run on a normal hard drive now. We have virtually no information about system requirements, how this game will or will not run on a device that is not housing an SSD. I have the original clip from the 2-year-old trailer where Insomniac gave insight into just how this game was going to run. I'm going to play the clip and what was stated because context is very important. I know context isn't very meaningful when you rip things out of context and use soundbite or misrepresentations to run false narratives, but this is not some gotcha moment for PlayStation or for Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. Now, I have my own questions about the timing of the announcement. It's coming July. That's when this will be available on Steam, July 26th. And they made this announcement in a really, really strange way. The day that the embargo dropped on Street Fighter 6 and Diablo 4, they decided to publish a blog. We'll be taking a look at that. There will be more information forthcoming, so it seemed a little bit out of step. Number one, this wasn't a part of the PlayStation Showcase, which is lending credence to some of the leaks that are saying, hey, there's more announcements. Sony's spacing things out. They're going to have things at Summer Game Fest. Some people are even saying there's going to be a second showcase this year. I'm not putting a lot of stock into any of that. I don't know why you would do that. Some people are saying it's just a better way to stay in the conversation instead of blowing all of your announcements in the showcase and then just going dead quiet for all of Summer Game Fest. They've decided to space things out. I even did a talk show where I said this is going to be too much for one showcase. They basically took an entire show from last year and kicked it to this year, and I thought maybe they'll do a state of play as a part of Summer Game Fest after doing their showcase. It seems like maybe they are doing some semblance of that, which is they know that the marketing for games, reviews, releases, trailers, and gameplay announcements are going to be happening from the end of May all throughout June, and they want to be in the mix. So I kind of respect, maybe you could call it cockiness to think that you're going to go toe-to-toe with Street Fighter 6 review embargo drop, amazing scores, by the way, and the Diablo 4 review embargo dropped, and you're going to go toe-to-toe with that with a PC port announcement that could have been a part of your showcase. I don't think they wanted to focus on PC ports in the showcase. I kind of made that prediction ahead of time. I said, I don't get the vibe they're going to be talking about PC. They're going to primarily focus on PS5 and PSVR 2. And so the strangeness of this announcement doesn't really have anything to do with the fact that this is not a gotcha moment. PlayStation is not getting caught in some lie. There's also the possibility of direct storage being utilized. That's technology not available on the next-gen consoles, the Xbox or the PS5. They cannot leverage direct storage, and maybe Nexus, the company doing the port, it's possible they're leveraging that, and that will put a lot of the workload on the GPU, which may end up helping with some of the porting problems we've been seeing with massive bottlenecks and too much being thrown at the VRAM and at the CPU. This may assist with that. There's also the possibility that they allow for loading screens in the game, which I don't think they would do. I really can't see them porting this game to PC and saying, oh, it's fine if there's loading screens. That will sort of really cut against what makes this game so special. So let's hear from Insomniac themselves. Creative director Marcus Smith is who's talking here. Listen to what he says. The context is so important.
This is what we're trying to do, is build worlds that feel real and are bringing you in. You're exploring these brand new spaces. And this is something that we never could have done on previous generations.
That's incredibly important. He's about to talk about the SSD and the dimensions, but he's saying all that under the heading and the context of we couldn't do this in previous generations. He's speaking against the backdrop of where we're coming from, the PS4. This, again, is against the narrative of people claiming, oh, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart could have ran on a PS4 just fine or a PS4 Pro because some guy claimed that he could do the Rift thing on a PS3. That was such a false headline. And again, the SSD is talking about instantaneous loading of areas and worlds. It's not talking about a lasso thing where you lasso to a spot and you use like a mini Rift. So many people misunderstood understood that. That has nothing to do with what this section is about. This section is about, we couldn't do this before, now we can. Listen to more.
Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart is a game that utilizes dimensions and dimensional rifts, and that would not have been possible without the solid-state drive of the PlayStation 5. The SSD is screamingly fast. It allows us to build worlds and project players from one place to another in near instantaneous speeds. It is...
So you see, again, he's saying this wouldn't have been possible without this. We didn't have this before. You're talking about a first-party developer speaking within the context of developing for the PS5 instead of the previous version, which was the PS4 and the PS4 Pro. These were things they didn't have at their disposal. Insomniac is not a PC developer. They are a developer for the PS ecosystem. Their proprietary engine is built around the PlayStation architecture. They have a company, Nexus, porting a completed game to PC. That's not something Insomniac is doing. So when you rip all this out of context, you want to say, oh, they said this was only possible with the PS5's SSD. They were lying. It's coming to PC. You are, number one, misrepresenting what was said, and number two, you're speaking out of turn. We don't even know exactly how this game's going to run on PC yet. They have more information forthcoming. He says a little bit more here.
Unbelievable game changer in terms of we can now do gameplay where you're in one world and the next moment you're in another. And we're loading up levels that happen so quickly and in the action that you don't even imagine that this is something that we couldn't do before because it feels so natural. Long gone are loading screens. Now it's all about bringing exciting new adventures.
So you can see he's saying we couldn't do this before, long gone are loading screens, and he's even hinting at something in the game that functionally, until you experience it, you don't really understand it. Not just cinematic moments where, you know, you're flying from world to world and it's like a cutscene. It's an actual instantaneous thing where there's an entire area and there's like a rift in space, okay? Again, we're not talking about the lasso ability where you lasso up to an area and you teleport. That was something that was misrepresented by somebody's like, oh, you could have done that 2 generations ago. If you could have put Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart on the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 4 Pro, they would have done it. The saturation for the PS5 was not nearly where they wanted it when it first came out, and the saturation for the PS4 was amazing. There was a very strong economic impetus to make this game cross-generationally supported, and it wasn't. The hilarious thing is, the same people who rip "we believe in generations" out of context and try to extrapolate an entire axiom of truth out of it, which is always hilarious, they think that that meant, oh, they're going to just immediately leave behind the PS4, and when they didn't, they tried to call foul there. And when they actually had games that weren't cross-generationally supported, they try to call foul on that as well. These are just dishonest haters. They're just smear merchants. They're not saying anything accurate. Now, there were articles that made people jump to some of these conclusions. This one here is from VG247. The PS5 SSD is what allows Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart to instantly jump between dimensions. Now, people are taking that headline and thinking, oh yeah, well, it's going to run on, PCs. And there's all kind of different SSDs out there. There's even non-SSD hard drives in the market. How's it going to run? I thought it could only work on the PS5 SSD. At the time this was developed, that's what they used. That's what they leveraged. They didn't have that before. In the context of the conversation and the quote from the man himself in the Insomniac video, they weren't saying this wouldn't be possible on a PC or this wouldn't be possible on a really amazing computer that might not have an SSD. They were comparing it to the previous generation. If you don't read those comments in context, you end up looking foolish. So let's take a look at the blog here. Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart is coming to PC on July 26th. Right here is a really important part. PC features and pre-purchase details revealed. They're actually going to tell us more about PC features later on, so you don't even get everything in this. This is from online community specialist from Nexus, Julian. I'm not going to try the last name. So Julian says, hey everyone, the intergalactic adventures Ratchet and Clank are making their debut on PC this summer. At Nexus Software, we are all very excited to announce our next project in collaboration with Insomniac Games. This is why Nexus wasn't working on The Last of Us Part 1 port to PC, which is unfortunate because that was a disaster. These guys guys do good work. The Ratchet and Clank franchise recently celebrated its 20th anniversary. We are thrilled and honored to bring this iconic franchise to a new audience. If you haven't played a game from the series before, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart is an excellent one to start with. The game is a visual spectacle that is perfectly suitable for newcomers thanks to a standalone storyline and the introduction of two brand new characters, Rivet and Kit. We can't wait for you to meet these intergalactic heroes and start your multi-dimensional adventure when the game launches on July 26th. Today, I can share the first details of the PC features for Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart that our team has been working on and tell you more about the pre-purchase bonuses. So you get a little bit of information here, but not all of it. The PC version of Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart features ray trace reflections with a variety of quality levels to choose from and newly added ray trace shadows for natural light in outdoor areas. This enables realistic shadows with natural gradients in softness. We know many PC gamers enjoy playing on ultra-wide monitors. For those, we added support of 21:9, 32:9, and up to 48:9 resolutions for multiple monitor setups. Both gameplay and cutscenes are optimized for ultra-wide screens. This is possible thanks to our engineers, artists, and QA team who have analyzed the game and adjusted all cinematics to ensure compatibility with panoramic aspect ratios. PC users are probably rejoicing at this because that's one thing I've seen, consistently with ports is when there's a lack of that ultra-wide support. The game supports unlocked frame rates and includes the latest performance-enhancing upscaling technologies. You'll be able to choose from NVIDIA DLSS 3, AMD FSR2, Intel XeSS, and Insomniac Games Temporal Injection. NVIDIA Reflex and image quality enhancing NVIDIA DLAA are also supported. Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart on PC offers full mouse and keyboard support with customizable controls. Controllers are also supported, and when using a DualSense controller on a wired connection, you can feel in-game actions coming to life in your hands with haptic feedback and dynamic trigger effects. So DualSense support is a part of the port for those of you who want to experience what it feels like on a PlayStation 5. Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart will be available on Steam and in Epic Games Store. Head over there now to wishlist or pre-purchase the game. If you pre-purchase ahead of the launch, you'll get access to the following in-game items: the Pixelizer weapon and the Carbonox armor set. These are actually pretty cool and well worth it. That's one of my favorite armor sets, and the Pixelizer is super neat. The PC version includes 5 armors in the Digital Deluxe Edition and the 20th Anniversary Armor Pack with 5 armors inspired by previous games in the series. In the coming weeks, we will reveal details about the PC features of Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. More details, I should say. Follow us on Twitter to stay up to date on the latest news. So, more details to come. Are they using direct storage? Are they leveraging that new technology that is not available on the PS5? Are they literally going to say, sorry, if you don't have an SSD, you can't play this game? Or are they going to say, listen, non-SSD rigs are going to have a very different experience? I don't know. I would imagine they've either figured out a way to leverage direct storage technology to not require the SSD so that you could have that seamless load times, because that would dramatically affect the cinematics. It would dramatically affect gameplay and the areas, and anytime you want to hop into one of those dimension cracks and go into one of those areas, that would be, I think, a huge downgrade if you couldn't experience the game in that way. So they've either figured out a way to do that with like direct storage, or they're just going to tell you, sorry, you don't have an SSD, you can't play this game. If you go to the game right now on Steam, PC requirements are TBA. So anybody running around, I'm recording this on May 30th of 2023, anybody running around saying, oh, the game's going to run on a normal hard drive, they don't have any concrete information to make that claim. And if it does in fact run on a normal hard drive, I'm sure they're going to tell us how they pulled that off, because I don't know how you would run on old hard drives and do what they're doing in this game. There aren't games right now doing that. Like, you can't go find me a game where there's instantaneous load times and 0 load screens with a normal hard drive. Like, that's what's hilarious to me, is that people sort of peacocking about this or wanting to celebrate this. That's not a thing on computers. That's old tech. Old non-SSD drives are known not just for load times, but for significantly longer load times. Maybe none of these people have ever played on a PC. Maybe they're living a little bit too much terminally on Twitter, or maybe they only play on one system and they just have no idea the woes of pre-SSD gaming on PC and how long load screens actually were. I made the mistake once on one of my rigs, installed it on the wrong drive, and I was like, why is everything taking so long? I remember playing Outriders with people, and if they had it installed on the old console or on an old PC, I had to wait for them to load in, and it took forever. It was very, very unenjoyable. So I don't really know where people are coming from on this except for mindless fandom. I'm excited to see another PlayStation piece of property land on PC. I think it's good. Maximize profit. Continue to make more fans of these franchises, and maybe, hey, they might be convinced to come over into the ecosystem because if there's a great sequel or more great games on the horizon. And if not, look, man, PC gamers can really benefit here. You get to wait, late adopt, and play a game, especially ported by Nexus, that is, I think, one of the best games to hit the PS5 up to now. As always, if you like this video, be sure to hit subscribe, hit the bell button. We may be heading to a debrief with members. That's a great reason to be a member on this channel. Hit subscribe, hit the bell button, consider hitting join, and I'll see you in the next video.